Okay, so this is the second video. We're going to go ahead and open up Dreamweaver. And the first thing that you're going to do, and forgive me if you already know some of this stuff, like I said before, you might be able to skip through some of it, but I don't know what anybody knows right now. So anyway, the first thing you want to do if you're using Dreamweaver is you want to go up here where it says Site, and you want to create a new site. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to name it something. This is called managing your sites, by the way. So anyway, I'm going to go to where it says unnamed site 2, and I'm going to call it, let's call it graphic. You can call it whatever you want, graphic, but I'm calling it graphic design interactive demo. Okay, and then I have to click on this little icon for the folder and find where that thing is located. So on my desktop, I already have a folder that's created that's empty. You see that it doesn't have anything in it when I click the drop down. So it says graphic design interactive demo. Notice also that I don't have any spaces in here. You typically should not have spaces in anything that's web related, whether it's a folder name, a file name, including image names. So that's just sort of the very first thing to remember. Anyway, I'm going to select this folder here, and I'm going to say choose, and then save. And then what that does is it'll pop open the little files tab over here, and it's going to help me manage my files over here visually. The other thing too that Dreamweaver will do is it will also manage your links relative to what is referred to as your root level directory. This is going to be our root level directory. In mine, it was called Graphic Design Interactive Demo or something like that. It was the folder that was on my desktop, and you'll see it here. It's this folder right here. So if I hover it, it's called graphic-design-interactive-demo. Okay, so that's my root level directory. Alright, so I'm going to create a new file. And one of the first things you want to notice is I'm going to click, first of all, on blank page over here. Don't use one of these other things. Blank page, HTML, and then you'll notice here you've got a Doctype option. If yours isn't defaulting to HTML5, you need to select HTML5, okay? And then I'll hit create. And I'm going to go ahead, I'll give it a title right here. And mine opens up, by the way, in code view. Yours might open up in split view, where you've got a design interface on the right or something and code on the left, or it might even open up like this, where it's in design view. So notice how these tabs are set up. I'm going to go back to split view. That's how we're going to try to do most of this demonstration. Right here where it says title on line 5, notice that it's going to be the same as this title up here. So if I change it in the code view and I type something like interactive demo, and then I click somewhere else, you see that it updates the title bar right here. Don't ever leave your titles called untitled. It just shows that you weren't paying attention and that you kind of don't know what you're doing. Okay, the title, by the way, is very important when it comes to like search engine optimization, things like that, that I know you probably don't care about right now, but don't leave your title blank. Okay, so there are some basic things in an HTML page, and I'm not going to go through this like gangbusters crazy or anything like that, but Dreamweaver or any other kind of code editor is going to start you out with exactly what is absolutely minimally required. So first thing is you have this thing called the Doctype, and it always starts off looking like this, where it's an exclamation and the word Doctype, and then if it just says HTML, that means it's an HTML5 Doctype. If you see something that's like long and convoluted here, then you're not using an HTML5 Doctype. And the stuff that I'm about to show you how to type, you're going to have problems with because it's not going to want to autocomplete whenever you're typing tags and stuff like that. Next, you'll notice that we have an HTML tag. Also, notice that you have what's called an ending tag down here. So there's a bunch of stuff nested inside the HTML tags. That's an absolutely required part of the page too, having HTML and then an ending HTML at the end. And notice to end a tag, you just put a / before you type the tag name, okay? And then inside of the HTML, there are going to be two major parts to the page. There's the head of the page, and then there's also the body of the page. The head of the page is where you would put things like your title, which, by the way, will show up in places like up in the tab or up in the window name. The other thing too would be things like references to your style sheet, references to JavaScript files, stuff like that that you don't necessarily see on the page, but things that you need. Also, you've got this body. Okay, the body is everything that you see in what's called the viewport. And so anything that we actually start to add that's going to be like, like tags and, well, here I'll show you. That's going to be like all this content that you're seeing right here on the page. All of that stuff is going to be added right here in the body. Okay, so that's the first really important thing to know. Right, I'm going to go ahead and I want to save this file. Right now you see up here it says Untitled 1 and it has an asterisk. If you don't know anything about Adobe software, the asterisk means that it's unsaved. Okay, so inside of my Graphic Design Interactive whatever root folder, I'm going to call it index.html. Okay, and index is a really important name because that allows you to, when you put it on a server, it automatically will find any file that's called index if all you do is type the pathway to the folder that it's inside of. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do before I go any further, just so we can get it set up, is I'm going to go ahead and make a style sheet. Okay, I'm going to go to File, New, again, and this time instead of HTML, I'm going to choose CSS. Hit Create, and you don't have to worry about a doctype. That's not relevant to CSS. Create. And I'm not going to add anything, do anything like that. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to save it. And I'm going to save it right in the same folder in the root directory, and I'm going to call it styles.css. Click Save. Now I can close it, and I'm going to show you how to link the two together. So I'm going to close styles.css. And now the next thing I need to do is I need to go ahead and attach that style sheet to this page. Well, to do that, what I can do, I could type it in manually here, but I'm not going to expect you to know how to do that. So you have some window options, right? You have these different panels that you can have show up. And if yours isn't showing up already on the right side, then you can always find something under window if you don't see it. Anyway, we're going to look for CSS Styles. And you see it pops open this little panel. And then down below at the bottom you see, by the way, if it's on current, just click on All. The bottom you'll see this little link icon, it looks like a chain link, and if you hover it says Attach Style Sheet. Go ahead and click on that. And then because we manage the website, it should be a little bit easier to find. We'll go to Browse. Now, and of course it didn't automatically jump to the right place, but that's okay. I know that on my desktop is where I have my Graphic Design Interactive demo file. I'm going to open that, and then there's that style sheet that I just made. So, and then notice also down here, this is really important, where it says URL. If yours says anything but just the name, if you're doing it the way I'm showing you, if it doesn't say, if it says something like Macintosh HD blah blah blah, or it's got the hard drive name, or if you're on Windows, if it says C:/ and then it's got an address, it means that something's wrong. It's making what's referred to as an absolute pathway. This is called a relative pathway because this file, styles.css, is in the same folder as index.html. It doesn't have to announce the absolute pathway all the way up to the hard drive. And so you want to make sure that it looks like this and not like the other thing, otherwise your links are all going to be broken later when you put it on a different computer. So go ahead and say Open, and then say OK. And then notice up here in line 6, it went ahead and it linked itself to the CSS file. Okay, so we're good to go here. Also notice over here in CSS Styles, now we have an empty style sheet right here. Okay, so far so good. Okay, so I'm going to end this in just a second, but one of the first things I want to show you really quickly is how if I click over here in the display view, you see I have a cursor and I just start typing something, something like that. You see how it pops up over here in the left side, and it doesn't have a tag or anything around it other than it's just inside the body tag. Well, as soon as I hit the return key like this over here in the display view, see what it did was it wrapped this tag set around it called P, or stands for paragraph. So it's a paragraph tag. So that's really important because when you go to style stuff, you're going to need to make sure that you've got it properly marked up in your code view so that you can properly style it. Now one of the things is you could have done it that way, and then you can just change the name here, highlight this and type something. Okay. And then you see it changes over here. Another thing, if you want to do it, if you want to get used to it, is you can also come over in the code view and you could start typing the tags yourself, and you'll notice what it did is it starts giving you a list of valid tags. And then I could go down the list, but if I type P, it automatically jumps to P for paragraph, and then I could hit enter. And then see, it doesn't complete it yet because there's some other stuff I could add there if I wanted. But if I just want to end it, I can type the ending bracket. Now, depending on how you have your Dreamweaver set up, you might have to do like this, where you start to type the ending tag and it automatically completes. But since you're new to this, my recommendation is that you go up into Dreamweaver's Preferences. In Windows, it's going to be under Edit Preferences. And what you're going to do is you're going to find where it does its writing, and I think it's under code hints. Yes, so if you go under code hints, what you want to do is you want to say after typing the open tags, okay, basically after you complete the open tag, it'll auto-complete, it'll close the tags for you. This is really good for beginners because then it means that you're less likely to type mistakes. So I'm going to click on OK. Let's try this again. So if I do P like that, now it automatically completed my closing tag for me, and it puts the cursor right in the center. So if I start typing something else, then you can see it pop up properly over here. Also notice the default styling. If I highlight this, you see the default styling for paragraph tags is to put a full carriage return in between, at least in terms of the way it visually looks. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But right now, I want to go ahead and I'm going to end this demo video, and then we'll move on to the third one and we'll push forward a little bit more.